to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, that was talking before about moments of that was that moment, you know. I was digging through some old books in my granddad's garage and found a copy of that. And here I am reading this book going, oh, people can actually learn how to, you know, be more social or whatever. And I'd never really thought about it at the time. I was, you know, probably 18, I think, straight out of high school and living briefly with my grandfather to find a place to live in Melbourne. And here's this book that's like, you know, I think it's 3 stages, 3 sort of parts with 5 to 10 chapters in each, I think. And these little steps on just using people's names and how to be polite and things like that to get people to light up. And it really is quite that simple, I think. Yeah, it's beautiful. And what other books do you have there? What other ones? Talking about You Can Heal Your Life is speaking to me as well. I find that one fascinating. There's those kind of books are very interesting to me because they are in a delicate balance between the subjective and the objective. You know, science can't necessarily measure it, at least not mainstream science. It's not publicly acceptable. And yet that type of stuff does change a lot of people's lives. So what do you make of that? Do you just go along with the fantasy and maybe you're wrong? You know, I think religion can sort of fall in that category as well. It has a beautiful opportunity to allow people to feel better about themselves and contribute more to society and have a bigger sense of community. But it can be very subjective, so people can get lost in that world quite a bit as well. Yeah.
So good. Yes. I'm in a graduate program right now through Quantum University, which is a school that all of the degrees are different focuses on the intersection of holistic health or integrative medicine and quantum physics. Yeah. So that's how I pursue that dichotomy.
I am leaning more and more these days to the subjective reality, in that sure there's a shared world that we all have, there's shared language, but at the end of the day when you start going down the rabbit hole of different experiences and, you know, what's the right way to do things in inverted commas, at the end of the day it's up to you to make that decision for yourself anyway. So why not start with that in the first place?
I'd say yes to some degree, although I think so a language pattern that I find to be more destructive in a way that more destructive and in a way that doesn't honor what is, to my perspective, then constructive is this new trend of using the word truth as subjective. As in saying your truth, my truth, their truth, our truth. There are certainly, obviously, subjective perspectives, subjective viewpoints, opinions, and I think we're really shooting ourselves in the foot as a species if we don't hold space for an ultimate, objective, shared experience.
Yeah.
That we, for a long time, have used this word truth to describe. And which is not me claiming that humans are anywhere near being able to define what that is, or me claiming that we will ever necessarily be able to define what that is. And I find that putting any one of our perspectives on the same level as truth is a really warps like what is.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely agree with you. It's kind of like, you know, there's news and there's fake news. It's like, well, is fake news really news, you know? And I do think we have to be more specific when it comes to what is it that we're actually talking about. And that's the beautiful challenge of being a human being, I think, is, okay, what is Rosie actually talking about right now, you know, or whoever, and trying to sit down with the other person, and all we have is this, I mean, it's a big collection of words we have in the English language, or whichever language you're speaking in, but which words are the right words to use? And we're delicately going, if I say this right now, is that going to make them understand me or feel understood? And I think we're all, I guess I'm not trying to give permission. I love what you're saying about we do need to come back to objectivity a lot more. But also we need to give ourselves permission to have a bit more reflection of our own experience as well, and sit with that.
Both and I wouldn't, to clarify, what I'm saying is not that one is more important than the other, but simply that they both exist in their own right. And conflating the two, I think, is what becomes out of harmony with a collective truth. Like subjective opinion is integrated into collective truth. It is also real in a subjective sense, but no one's subjective experience displays the totality of what is. It's only through coming together and navigating the very imperfect and treacherous land of language that we continue to make the unconscious conscious, and collaborate to integrate our ideas, so that whether I'm the monk that's feeling the elephant's trunk, or the one touching the tail, or the one touching the belly or the side, we can ultimately all get some idea of, oh, this is an elephant. Yeah, I agree. Do you believe that truth needs to be a yes-no dichotomy, or that there is a scale of truth? I don't think, I'm a big fan of the Hermetic axiom that, like, and I wouldn't say it this way, but I like how it's said, all truths are but half-truths. I don't think I think it's near impossible to express truth through words. So I would say that is more so the tricky thing, is that language is in many ways essentially black and white. We can speak in a way that illustrates more gray, and I find that that's a very helpful relearning for increasing self-awareness, especially because it puts us more in the observer seat of what's going on, instead of you brought up religion. I was brainstorming an article yesterday about the power of questioning the beliefs that we hold most dearly, which doesn't mean to indicate, as what I went through, that we then need to totally reject them, because all truths are but half truths. Whether, everything has truth in it, and nothing is the entirety of truth. So what I find is that the gains are made when we are able to hold something more loosely and say, this is possible, this seems to be reflected in the trend of my life. How might I discover the nuances of where my blind spots are, and bringing it away from that black and white, this is true, this is not true, and more so discerning the aspects of it that do seem to be reflected in my experience, and then the aspects that well, I used to think were also being reflected in my experience, but actually upon closer observation, those don't seem to be held up by my actual experience. Those were held up by assumptions I was making because I could see that the other parts of this thing were reflected in my experience.
Interesting.
Is this making sense?
I'm just letting it wash over me. And when it comes to this type of philosophical conversation, what I love, and this is the blessing and the curse of philosophy and religion as well, I think, is that everything that we experience and everything that we put out is being run through potentially tens or even hundreds of our own filters. And then you're receiving that and you're filtering that. And not to critique religion, I just have a bit of empathy for religion and texts like the Bible that, it's communication, somebody or some people's communication from hundreds and thousands of years ago, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of years ago, different religious texts. That's language that's now changed form, and meaning can be changed quite a lot over the years. And are we looking at it from this is what happened, or are we looking at it from a subjective, metaphorical kind of conversation? And everybody's looking at it from I'm sure there's a bunch of people hearing this going, well, this is my experience and that's what it is. But that level of you and I pointing at the elephant, as you say, from different sides, that can create a lot of chaos, but also beauty to have that experience. One of my favorite things that I try and remind myself of is there's my side of the story, there's your side of the story, and then there's the truth somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
And you and I are both trying to point at this thing. And sometimes by having more people come and talk about that thing, we can have more language and get better at it. But then the downside of democracy is that you have now thousands of people all wanting something, and they're all pulling on that tug of war, on that rope for tug of war, and it can get very painful and stressful as a community. And that's the beautiful dance we have to lead as the dance we have to have as a society. Yeah.
Welcome back. This is episode 21 of the Naturally Rosie podcast. This is the second half of my conversation with Brett Solomano, and we're already in the weeds over here. Yeah. Yeah. The image that's been coming to my mind lately, instead of an elephant, is a small plant. And just appreciating how many different points there are on even a very small plant. Like a plant that is 1 foot tall, has 2-3 stems. Each stem has a couple of leaves, maybe whatever sprout, fruit, flower is made from this plant. And if I'm living on the end of the leaf on the right side pointing north of this plant, and I hear the perspective of the person that's on the opposite side of the stem facing away from me, unless I have a sense of we're all on this plant, right? They're gonna sound crazy. It's easy to say, it's easy to be like, what are you talking about? There's something that's not right about your perspective. And likewise, the stem to the leaf on the other side. What allows for bridging that difference is what allows for each individual to bridge that difference and have empathy and understanding for all the other points and perspectives is the recognizing of we're all on the plant.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. We're all sailing through this galaxy at however many millions of miles an hour. I'm sure somebody knows that and could post it in the comments. But here we are, we're all holding on tight, and we have no idea how fast we're all flying, trying to repair the spaceship as we're sailing through the galaxy, and here we are arguing about stuff, You're doing it wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's going on in your life, Brett?
What's going on in my life?
Yeah.
You want to dig into some stuff. What's going on in my life? A big thing that I'm working on right now is, I've said yes to a lot of things, and I mean that on a more larger scale. Like you, when a lot of dreams and visions have come to you and kept you up late at night, you say, yes, sir, I'll do that. That's my vision and I'll take that on. You can't say no to a strong vision like that when it comes to you. When it keeps coming to you as well, you have to say, yes, okay, fine, I'll do that. And sometimes that'll back off for a little bit, and sometimes it'll come back and knock a little bit, like, hey, I'm still here, let me in. And I've been in a transition recently where I've had to, being that the film industry's gone a bit quiet, I've taken that as a sign to move to other things and spend more time working on my coaching and public speaking. At the same time, a beautiful person's come into my life. Her name is Cassandra, as you know. And so now there's an opportunity and also an obligation there to step up into what's being called forth with that. And then also I've had to, as it's been called to me very strongly that to move forward with many of these things, the amount of debt that I have, which is not huge in any way, but that needs to get paid off as well. And so there's all these things going, now's the time. And it's been very full. But in that way, it's been very beautiful as well, because it's made me become more deliberate with my time. So a lot of things are being called forth in me right now. And with everything new that starts, there's a lot of teething problems, because when you start something, there's a bit of a curve. There's a relationship to effort and results and time, and you need to put a lot more effort into a journey when you're starting to pedal that bike before you can then get to the top of the hill and sail down under your own momentum. But there are quite a few things right now, I think, that are that I'm pedaling the bikes on, and so I have to get off one bike and jump onto the other one. I'm working a few jobs along with my coaching and my public speaking, because there's this commitment to paying off that debt. And obviously Cassandra is not the person, but the relationship is demanding a lot of time. And so that's really beautiful. So to be able to really listen in every moment when you might have 3 or 4 things knocking at the metaphorical door, and you can only really pedal one bike at a time, which one do you listen to? And so that's been a very beautiful challenge to tune into that. And just because certain things are knocking the loudest doesn't mean they should be let in first as well. And really listening to, sometimes you have to be able to prioritize things with urgency and importance. Urgent doesn't necessarily mean must. And sometimes things need to happen in reverse order to get the important stuff done first. So really, even with how busy I am and how many things are calling to me right now, there's a beautiful need and opportunity to really sit with what's going on and actually saying, is this the right thing to do right now? Like with anything, the word grief is coming to me, which is interesting, but it's not necessarily sad grief. It's just out with the old and in with the new as transitions happen. And as these transitions happen, you're going to get older programs, the mental programs coming back to say, hey, what about me? What about me? And we need to be able to let those go, even if they're, again, knocking very loudly. So that transition into what is now the new is very, very fascinating for me as someone who's very introspective. Yeah.
What helps you, 2 questions, what helps you listen at that deeper level? And what helps you shift and let go of the old things as they reach and continue to pull for your attention? Feel free to include anything from that you've been implementing that has culminated in your current ability to do both of those things.
Yeah. I, for example, recently, again, so grateful to never be addicted and to have never been addicted to something that might kill me, for example. But computer games and social media have been very strong for me. And recently, I re-downloaded one of my favorite games that I used to play, which is Age of Empires.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And it's so good.
I'm a Skyrim girl,
Oh,
Elder
yeah.
Scrolls girl myself, but
Love it.
I've played some Age of Empires.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many games that, and when you're a child, you know, or you're a young person, those songs that you hear from when you were growing up, those computer games, those movies, you know, I think every generation has said at some point they don't make them like they used to because those things speak so strongly to you. And there's something about, you know, building an empire on Age of Empires that is speaking to me. But
it's almost like you're building your own empire.
Exactly. It's a great metaphor, isn't it? Yeah. So there's something there. And I've had to say that to myself, like, I could do this and I could have control over my life by having control over this world, or I could build this world, or I could earn the rewards in this world, or I could do it in the real world.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of justifications to say, well, you've had a big week, Brett. Just take some time out, you know. Just take a reward, have a break. You've earned it. You've done really well. But does that actually align with my values? And there's something that I'm really fascinated by right now, where it's like, okay, if I cut everything out of my life, if I cut out every person, if I cut out every belief, if I cut out every action and item in my house and had to restart, and I had to do this when I moved to the US as well, which is really beautiful, but I think we need to do it on a more frequent basis. You know, it's like, imagine if you landed on a planet and all you had was the clothes that you had on your back. What would you do? First thing you do, can I breathe? Okay, yes, I can breathe. Assuming it's an oxygen-based planet, right? I can breathe. Okay, great. Now what do I do? What's the most immediate need?
Shelter.
Yeah. Do I have shelter?
Food.
Water. Yeah. And it's basically the pyramid of self-actualization from there, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and rebuild everything from there. Because I think sometimes, again, talking about programs, we get these old things that stick around. And Age of Empires has snuck back into my life in a really beautiful way. And I'm really fascinated by the idea that, you know, do I need to reward myself? Can the work itself be a reward? And if I'm trying to run away from something, or if I'm tired and I say I need a break, is that saying something about the work I'm doing or how I'm doing it? Yeah. And why am I burnt out by something that is supposed to be so congruent and authentic?
So good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that introspection, I think, is really important. Being able to slow down, I think it's really good, and we all know that feeling of being productive and having a to-do list and ticking things off.
I have no idea what that feels like.
But the to-do list, and this is the dark side of, or the beautiful thing about program theory is if you start seeing everything as a program, you can start seeing the pain that you start creating on yourself. Case in point, I talk about, you know, love languages. They're a program, right? We like to be touched. We like to be affirmed. We like to have people help us in a certain way. But there's also, and I notice this with a lot of disadvantaged youth, anti-love languages, I've coined the term, in that it's not traditionally acceptable to express our need for love in this way. But when you've got a 9-year-old who's got ADD or autism and he's not being heard in the way that he needs, and he just wants to be fucking heard. Pardon my French. So he throws a chair out the window. All of a sudden, everybody's looking at him. He's feeling significant. He goes to the principal. The principal's there. It's not the words, it's the experience of being seen, you know. And we do that to ourselves in adulthood, potentially. There's potentially an anti-love language there where we say, I mean, the theme under the surface is I'm not good enough and I'm not there yet. But if I just do one more thing on my to-do list, if I just burn myself out a little bit harder, I'll be there. If I just, you know, and look, it is healthy to be productive and get things done. We're all trying to build something, but if we can sit with ourselves and say, what is that thing that we're actually trying to build, and design our life in a way that is very congruent, and it's never going to, you don't just say, okay, I've designed my life and I'll continue on this way. It's always reprogramming and redesigning, right? In my vision for myself, though, do I see myself playing Age of Empires a couple of times a week? Should I allow that? Is that okay to have a break in that way? And I would encourage people to ask that question. Okay, so you're annoyed you're sitting watching social media or watching a little bit too much Netflix. Okay, cool. If you could design your life in the way you want, would that still be there? And watch what comes up. There's going to be the justifications. There's going to be your mother's voice or your sister's voice or your brother or best friend saying, you should try harder, or, hey, it's okay, you've done really well, take a break. And listen to those two devils on your shoulder, you know, or the angel on your shoulder. And just watch those voices and then sit blissfully in the moment, which is what I'm trying to do with Age of Empires again, going, is this what I truly want for myself? The challenge can be when I don't have self-esteem, when I don't have physical motivation, physical energy, mental energy, maybe a little bit more emotional, maybe just tired, whatever, maybe I haven't eaten right that day. These elements will keep tapping in and pulling on the other elements. The example is when you've got momentum, when you've pedaled enough to get to the top of the hill, you don't have to pedal as hard coming down. And then if you tuck yourself in, you can become more aerodynamic. But if you're going up the hill and you're standing tall, so you're not aerodynamic, and your technique of pedaling is really bad, and you haven't eaten any food, so you've got no physical energy, and your self-esteem and self-worth is down, you're beating yourself up, so mentally your programs aren't there, you're going to have a very hard time pedaling on a flat road, let alone slightly uphill with a slight headwind, you know. So you've got to get all these programs and all your ducks in a row so that you can keep building in the right way. Otherwise, that's when you start slipping back into old habits, and that's what I've been doing with Age of Empires, you know. And again, is it okay to do it? That's the question I have to ask myself, because I know if I ask somebody else, they're going to tell me that I've done well and I'm okay and I should take a break. I've been working really hard. Good job, Brett. You know, you're so successful. Whatever they tell me, you know. Or it'll be the other way around as well. So that's something I've been wrestling
Video
with.
games are terrible.
Yeah, they ruin your life. They rot your brain. They rot your brain. But you know, there's good and bad and light and dark in every moment. And I think it's more important to be deliberate and take on our power as a spiritual, sovereign human being and say, I'm the creator. This is what I want. Is this what I want? Is this what I'm creating for myself? And when we do step back into those old habits, what got me here? Because what I shouldn't be doing is playing Age of Empires, perhaps, unless that's the fastest way to get me back to myself, again, in inverted commas. What is this self that I want to create? What is the experience and the environment I want to create? If that's the fastest way, okay, cool. I'm going to crush it on Age of Empires and I'll feel better about the world. And then I'm going to use that as a metaphor, perhaps, to then get back on my horse. Maybe I should be, and this is what I did actually, in actual fact, was start playing more board games in real life. So I have more physical social interaction, more eye contact. It's more tactile to touch. I can learn a new game because I'm probably going to play another game that somebody else is playing there. It's a 2-hour game, perhaps 40-minute, half an hour, whatever it might be. And then at the end of the day, it goes back in the box and I have to go there. So I'm deliberately getting dressed and I'm engaging with, you know, hygiene and getting dressed and all that kind of stuff that we have to do. Potentially, otherwise, if you work from home, you may, I'll work from bed today, you know, and then that program is now not being healthy and constructive. And so I know I need to get better at cleaning up my study space at home as well, and want to play with the idea of a standing desk as well. Don't know if that'll be good or bad, but getting more vertical, getting more physically engaged with my work would be a very interesting way. And so again, to the people at home, what are you doing to rest? How are you resting? How are you working? How are you creating? What is the environment that you've got for yourself? Is it the right bike that you're pedaling for the journey that you've got? And get very fascinated with the ideas and all the elements in the environment that you have. Are they pointing in the right direction, or is one wheel pedaling backwards while you're trying to pedal the bike forwards? You know, your relationships. Do you have a healthy balance of challenge and support? People who can push you and pull you and support you from beneath. Or are they giving you too much unhealthy challenge and telling you suck and telling you that, you know, beating you up? Or are they giving you too much unhealthy support where they're always there to cuddle you when really you just need a kick in the butt and get your butt back out there, kind of thing. So to get really fascinated with that, I think is very, very key. And that's something I've tried to get a lot more of recently, as I'm very busy, trying to also step back and say, is this the best use of my time right now? Or of all these 10 things, which fire can I let burn for a little bit longer so that I can focus on this other bigger thing that's going to be more valuable and give me more results in the immediate future. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I'm hearing the theme of the power of intentionality. Yeah.
What I often sign my emails with is be curious, learn often, live deliberately. Yeah. That's something I try and carry. It's like, okay, am I being deliberate right now? Is how much, and again, coming back to subjectivity, how deliberate am I being right now with my action and with my thoughts? Sometimes we can have a bit of OCD with that, and we can try and fix things that don't need to be fixed. But listen for that satisfaction, that non-material, spiritual, personal success, and go, okay, is this ringing for me right now? Does this feel true? Does this feel right? And if it does, great, let's move forward. If not, let's try and get it to a certain place where we can not have to worry about that, and not have to keep fixing the car for 2 hours every time I just want to go to the shop for a bottle of milk or something similar to that.
I love the metaphor of the bike, pedaling the bike up the hill and looking to see what components of the bike, if any, are not helping me get up the hill. I use the metaphor, I love Monopoly. Monopoly is my game.
I'll gladly play that with you
sometime.
Yes,
yes. I find this is a new era for Monopoly. Just in the past year, I found people who are willing to play with me again.
Nobody wanted to play it.
Nobody wanted to play it. They're like, that game takes forever.
That kills friendships. Yeah. Monopoly really shouldn't take that long if you're playing by the rules. It's when people start adding home rules like free parking gets you the last 20 turns of taxes and whatever else. Yeah. So if you're playing it right, it really shouldn't take that long. But having followed board games for a very long time, and as someone who understands the history of board games, something I've looked into quite a bit. More recently, in the last 20 years or so, there's been a lot more board games that have come out, and there's been a huge resurgence around COVID and all that kind of stuff because everyone was stuck at home. But people are expecting a lot more games these days that are what they call Euro games, where you have victory points and you don't really know who's winning until the last score is counted. You can sort of see who's got the most victory points, but then there's hidden victory points that will get scored at the end of the game. So that's the worst thing about Monopoly. If you're out 1 hour into it because you went bankrupt because you landed on someone's hotel, you know, and then you're like, well, I guess I'll just go over here and amuse myself. I wanted to be social, but, you know, so I get the hate that Monopoly gets, but it is a beautiful balance of luck. And I normally prefer games that have a lot more strategy involved. I think there's just, you know, snakes and ladders doesn't do it for me. It's pure luck, you know, but a balance of being able to make the most out of good luck or bad luck that you do get. I think that's a beautiful metaphor for life as well. Yeah.
I use the metaphor often, have for years, that life has a really interesting way of teaching us to build evenly. Meaning, so you named 7 different areas of life. And I'll often encourage clients to look for what are your weak links.
Yeah.
Right? What are the areas where you're the weakest? Because those areas not being strengthened are going to limit your ability to grow in other areas. You might be feeling some of that now. You're definitely going to be feeling more of that later if you don't take the time to strengthen those areas. Like, for example, you brought up maybe I didn't eat well this day, right? I'm guessing by looking at you and knowing you, you generally eat pretty well.
I have good genetics, but I try and look after myself. It's been harder when I've been on the road recently, but
if
different routine can challenge that quite a bit. Yeah,
sure. If for example, someone is really strong in like vocation and finances and making a lot of money and very good socially, has an even temperament, but they eat like shit, right? That's going to catch up with them and ultimately going to limit their ability to continue growing in all those other areas.
Yeah.
And it's the same across the board. It's maybe easier to see with something like nutrition, but if someone isn't mentally or emotionally healthy, that will start to affect their physical health, their ability to work, their sense of spirituality, purpose, fulfillment, connectedness, etc. So I like to use the Monopoly metaphor for that, because once you have all the properties, you have to build evenly. You can't just put a hotel on Park Place and not have anything on Boardwalk. You have to do house, right?
Yeah. I love that. I'd never seen that. Again, so many good metaphors and so many board games. I love that. I've never seen that one before, so thanks for that. I always think back to a lot of celebrities. You know, we always celebrate all the good stuff on social media and on news, and this guy's successful and multimillionaire and this athlete and whatever else. I do believe nowadays for some sports teams, a lot of the new guys will start getting financial training because all of a sudden they're making tens of millions of dollars, you know? And there's plenty of studies have been done about lottery winners where within a couple of years they've got less money than what they started with because they, you know, got the wrong advice and everyone's jumping on them like moths to a light bulb, you know.
And then why doesn't that happen for people who organically make a lot of money? It's because they've accumulated gradually the skills to manage that lot of money over as they've accumulated the money.
That's right.
So they arrived at, you know, having $1 billion with the skill sets that were needed to cultivate the $1 billion, whereas winning the lottery didn't require any of those skill sets. Yeah,
very true. Yeah. And that is the challenge whenever you have a big windfall. Of anything, yeah.
You have the most spectacular person just walk into your life and be like, you know, you're pretty cool. Like, I'd like to date you and see how that goes.
And then they don't choose you. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to run away now.
That's right, yeah. And you're like, oh, I thought I was, Or the job opportunity, you know, someone's like, they see something on your resume and then they're like, oh, yeah, he's not what I need. But yeah, it's about balance, and you might be a super talented football player or basketball player or whatever. But if you don't have the financial skills, you might lose the finances. You might have a lot of friends around you who are just there to leech off the wealth and fame and whatever else. And then they're not actual friends because maybe you weren't a really good friend, you know, and I can speak to some experiences like that in my own life where, you think you have something that's real, whether it's real money or real people or whatever. But again, this this program that you have calls in another program, but when that first program can't run anymore, all the other results fall away as well. So I think a lot of people have to start with what they have naturally. You know, some people are just naturally gifted at being social, or naturally gifted financially, naturally gifted in a career. And we have to be able to convert that currency into that other thing while we have it. They say that when you're a kid, you have plenty of time. You need to convert that time into education, and then you need to use that education to bolster your network, and then you use that network to get better financial opportunities, and then you use those financial opportunities to buy back your time when you retire. You know, and that's a very simple and perhaps even slightly dark, I think, especially perhaps the way I said it, but that's a good way.
This is the path.
This is the path. Yeah, you got to buy back all the time that you had in the first place. You know? But yeah, you've got these non-physical elements quite often. These more, I didn't want to say spiritual, but it's sometimes physical, you know, friends and relationships and things like that, but they're kind of a blend of both. And
from an immaterial place of inner resources.
Yeah, information, knowledge, that kind of thing. And you can take those and translate them into other things based on how you want. And money, as much hate as it gets, money is a really beautiful metric of the exchange that we have in this world and the value that we have to offer other people. It's not the only one. Just having beautiful eye contact with someone and giving a friend a hug, I mean, that's magic right there too, you know. And
there are ways to convert that to financial currency as well.
Yeah, exactly. It can go both ways. So for people to find out what they have the most in the world and what comes easy to them, and I do believe everyone has, as I say, a superpower. The more you can lean into that superpower, and the more you can glean what you can when you're younger and you have that time. And also, being a young person naturally will get you certain results. I think people will often take pity on younger people, and they see something in them and they want to help out the younger person a bit more naturally perhaps than when you're older. So using all of those resources, it's important to convert that to other areas of your life that don't necessarily speak to you as strongly, you know. For example, something like taxes. Not many people like doing their taxes, right? But if you can really sit with doing your taxes and say thank you for this opportunity to make my contribution to the world, because I'm driving on the roads, you know, nobody thinks about the dollar for dollar time, because it's not a hourly rate that we pay to use the roads. It's the system of government that we have, and people pay taxes based on income and how much fuel they use and things like that for the resources that we have. And so it's really important, I think, when you're doing something that's less desirable, like paying taxes, to actually sit down and write out, thank you, I'm so glad I have this, to get you into a better space of flow rather than resistance to this process that you have to do. You know, as they say, there's nothing more essential in life than death and taxes. So the more we lean into that, the better, but sometimes it can be tough and there's resistance there. So shifting the focus from something that's negative and dry and boring to I'm grateful for this opportunity to contribute back to the world can be a really beautiful thing. Yeah.
You spoke to younger people, and I'm wondering, because I don't know what percentage, but I know a significant, I would guess at least over, I would guess over 70 or so percent of my subscribers are older than me, and I would guess 40% or so at least are older than you. And reflecting especially on what comes up for the clients that I've worked with who are some decades older than me, what would you offer to people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who are maybe just now starting to recognize the programs they've been running on, how those programs are limiting their lives. And you know, with the empathy that it's I mean, I'm going to assume my sense is it's much more challenging at that point to switch out that software. I feel so much gratitude in relation to those individuals, recognizing that as much work as I've had to do to get to where I've gotten, I was only dealing with 20 or so years of unconscious programming when I started, right? And then to think of how would it have been if I had lived another 10, but 20, 30, 40 years, and then then started realizing myself.
Yeah, for sure. It's here's the beautiful thing about life that we all get stuck on. Like, wherever you are, that's where you are. The age, the gender, the money you have in the bank account, I mean, it's just a number. And you can say, oh, I'm 60 now. Oh, I've left it too late. A 20-year-old, I'm sure 20-year-olds say that, 25, 30-year-olds. Oh, well, I'm still stuck in this country town. Or, this is my career. This is my path. This is my career. This is the degree I got. Well, I guess this is what I've got now, And when you're younger, you have more time and more freedom against your own programs because you don't have all these habits pointing you in the direction and an ego and an identity you built up where I am this thing, So it can be more beneficial in that way. But when you're younger, you don't have the resources. You don't have the social network. You don't have the good things that an older person has developed.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So whatever age you are, it is not too late. Don't resign yourself to the fact that, oh, I'm 60 now, I guess I'm just going to have to work for the rest of my life until I die. Okay, if that's what you want to believe. But there are plenty of people who have sought help and said, never again, I'm going to do this differently. They make a change. And again, I've heard plenty of stories from other coaches and just people that I've listened to over the years where they decided to make a change. They decided that's where it starts. And they didn't know how, and they figured it out. And they might have been 60, but they lived for another 20 years. And they just, by making the decision, they start looking for things in their world that's going to support that and contribute to that. And new friends start appearing, new jobs start appearing, new opportunities to contribute start appearing. And as they lean into that, success leads to more success. You can hate on all of the millionaires and all of the super fit people in the world and put them down and say, well, that's what happens when you're greedy. But that's just the program running. They had a desire to make money at some point. And every billionaire has contributed to the world in some way. Think about Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. All these people have created millions of widgets for people to use, and people have paid money for that. Everyone knows what an iPhone is. Everyone knows what a Windows PC is from back in the day. And all these things are now used by billions of people. And that's from having a contribution. And again, there's a financial exchange, but there could also be other exchanges there by you going out and contributing. So if you want to sit in your home and just keep watching Netflix and sitting there with your toaster and your TV, to quote The Network, which is one of my favorite movies, sure, if that's what you want to do. Or you can step up, step out and try something different and say, I'm going to figure it out. But again, it's not too late. You're never going to have it all figured out. You're never going to have it all done. And if you keep comparing yourself to other people who have more money, more success or whatever, I promise you, if you sit down with those people, there are things that you have that they don't. And you think they've got a lot of money, but they don't. Or you think they've got a happy family, but they don't, And no judgment either way, but the world isn't as simple as that to be able to just say, well, it's all about the money, or they have a family and I don't, whatever. There are so many different ways that you can look at life differently, and it all comes back to your focus and deciding to make a change.
Yes. I love that you pointed out where the strengths, where the overflow of resources are for people as they age. Something that I've been a theme for the past month has been appreciating that people, like an elaborate idea on the many paths lead up the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it started just before I recorded a podcast with Cody, which is the last one that's come out now, but it's the last one that has come out as of this recording, but as of when this is published, it will be 2 podcasts ago. And Cody and I were talking about how my pattern and his pattern for growth, his pattern still is, mine is shifting a bit, but has been very much this, like, rocket up the side of the mountain. Like, blow anything that's in the way to smithereens. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters except I must get up the mountain.
That's right, yeah.
And I brought up the example of my partner, Brandon, who is much more of like I'm gonna, like, walk around this trail up the mountain. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna see what there is to see. And, oh, hey, look, there's an elevator on the trail. Let me just take this elevator up. Right?
And then all of a sudden he's up there and you're like, how did you get up here?
Yes, exactly. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm using that same metaphor, a similar metaphor, to look at age, that difference in age, and recognizing, well, certainly many people in their 40s, 50s, 60s have funds to pay for seminars and retreats and mm-hmm. the levels of coaching, right, that I can't afford right now, right? So whatever that elevator is for you at the point in your life where you realize, oh, I've just been kind of hanging out on the side of the mountain. You mm-hmm. don't know what elevator's around the corner.
Yeah. You might not even
know. Or what rocket. Maybe you find a rocket to hop on.
Yeah, and you might not even know what an elevator looks like. And so you have to use Brandon's experience, you have to quietly sit there, whereas Rosie's probably more likely to say, I'm just going to hack it and take my axe and blow right up the mountain through all the brush, you know. And the other metaphor that I use, being someone who spent a bit of time in the military, is the machine gunner versus the sniper, you know. They both get the job done protecting the country, but the sniper sits there quietly calculated and takes one shot, whereas the machine gunner sprays and prays, perhaps, you know. And when you're younger, I think you can spend a bit more time being the machine gunner and just say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I was definitely like that in my younger years, signing up for everything and blowing money out the window on ridiculous seminars. And, you know, it's an interesting metaphor that you brought up about the seminars and paying for support. If you do have money, you could just throw it at the wall and see what happens, or you could be the sniper.
What would you say the move for the sniper is in that position? In the position of you're 55, you've like just realized like, oh shit, like this is how I've been living my whole life. I don't want to do this anymore. What's the sniper move there? So I think, and you said, you know, you might be older and you might have lots of money because you've worked all your life. Yeah, if you have money, that's great. But if you don't, what do? They might be thinking, well, I don't have money. I don't have any friends. I don't have a job. You know, I'm 55. I feel like I'm on death's door or whatever. That's a beautiful spot to be in, you know. By not having something, you have everything. Even if you're laying on a hospital bed, that is a beautiful time to sit there and do nothing because you can't do anything else and say, what is next? What is speaking to me? How is God speaking through me today? How is my sense of self speaking through me today?
what ideas and dreams are coming to me right now. And when that dream comes to you, don't say to yourself, well, yeah, I'd like to have money, but I can't have any money because I don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. Don't say yes, but say, okay, and listen to the next step and just let it unfold. And you might find that with this new connection to this vision or desire that's speaking through you, you're walking around the next day and you just happen to walk into a coffee shop and there's a book, and then it turns out to be How to Win Friends and Influence People, and that's how you make a change. You know, if you are too focused on the how probably won't come. But if you just sit with the desire, sit with the why, sit with the dream, the positive experience, that how, just like with my connection to the film industry and the universe, that spoke to me from the universe, it didn't come, I couldn't have asked for that, I couldn't have emailed, maybe I could have, but that type of beautiful, the rocket ship, the elevator, you know, that just sits there quietly until someone steps into it, you know. So I think to be able to sit quietly, there's a lot of magic to that too. And then, you know, you can take the axe and the chainsaw and hack your way up the mountain if you want as well. Yeah.
I'm learning so much in my relationship with Brandon. We're trading a lot of skill sets in those ways, right? I'm noticing how I'm noticing more attachments that I've had, particularly to ways that weren't working, because I see what he's done in his life and I'm like, that seems to be working so much better for you than what I'm trying.
Yeah.
So I guess there's something for me to learn here.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And that's the magical thing about a relationship too, because here's this reflection coming back to you. It's probably an antagonistic reflection. I know in a lot of relationships when you start out, me, for example, with Cassandra, my partner, I am very logical, very rational. And that's what I've learnt, and that's the system and the programs I've developed for myself. But she is much more flowy and much more, I mean, we're both intuitive in our own ways. We're both really gifted with that. But she can tap into her feminine in ways I've never seen before, you know. Much like yourself, when there's a challenge, I'll go through my process and she goes through hers. And I've learnt to let her do her thing, even though it's sometimes challenging or undesirable or confronting for me. I have had to learn how to not even upskill myself with her skills, you know. I've definitely taught her a lot about my processes, and I know she's very grateful for that, and she's taught me a lot about hers. But I think it can be a challenge to not be challenged and not have to give up yourself, but just learn to work together. And what I'm seeing right now is this metaphor of like, I'm taking care of her while she's taking care of me, kind of thing. She used the metaphor of the mechanic. I'm a really good mechanic for her because I'm functionally perhaps more technical, logical, and I don't like saying fix because I don't think she's broken, but that's what she desires, is someone to repackage, reorganize, to use a lot more perhaps masculine fixing words, you know. And to be honest, I've probably spent more time or could spend more time sitting and listening, heart-centered, that type of thing. And even though it's
we've been working on that too, right?
Even though it's not the fastest way, the metaphor I love, and I'm keeping pretty close to myself right now, is if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I'm realizing, okay, I'm going far with this person. Let's sit down and go slower and really double check the car is packed and the car is working properly before we jump in it, you know. Which can be painful because you end up dancing around and around the same thing, and sometimes you can butt heads and not get anywhere. But and then there is magic in those moments, yeah.
And the other side of that, am I gathering correctly, is she's the car.
Well, the car is the journey or the relationship, perhaps, and we're both trying to make sure that the car is packed, working, whatever else.
You're the mechanic. What is she?
This is where the metaphors might blur a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the if the car's the journey, we both just want the best that's for each other, you know. And speaking to the masculine and the feminine, to look at a house, right? Again, metaphorically speaking, I might fix the house, but she makes it a home, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm focused on the structure of something as a more logical person in that way.
Keeping the lawn mowed.
Yeah, making sure the structure, everything's working. Yeah, and in that metaphor, she might even be the one to do the painting because it might make it more of a home, you know. So again, this is where the metaphor can blur a little bit. But I think the important thing is to dance and co-create. Realize, I have a somewhat subjective opinion that I don't think anyone should ever compromise in a relationship. And people might be challenged by that, but if you can realize that you both want to go to the same place, if you do, then you never talk about the price that you're paying. You just get the job done and say, okay, this is my role right now, this is my task, and I will contribute to the greater journey.
Remembering that we're on the same team.
We're on the same team.
We're on the same
team,
yeah. With the same goal.
Exactly, yeah. Because if I tell you as my partner, say, oh, you're not compromising enough, that's me trying to pull you over to my side, and she's probably thinking, well, you're not compromising enough, you're not doing the work, you're not paying the price. When that happens, I think it's good to come back to, what are we actually doing here? Where are we going? And then trust the other person in their role, and what they're really good at, again, sticking with strengths, and you be the gap fill for them and vice versa. And if you're still missing something, well, maybe that's something you've got to source externally somehow.
Or more deeply internally.
More deeply internally as well, yeah.
Yeah, this is the first significant relationship that I've been in, partnership that I've been in, where I have trusted my partner enough to feel motivated, to be willing to let go of the tendency to want to fix, manage, and control.
I have no idea what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
not at all, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's grueling. We have gotten over some significant humps in the past few months that, and now it's feeling much calmer.
Yeah.
And some really grueling moments of really essentially noticing just such a sense of threat and anxiety.
That's a really beautiful observation, yeah.
Yeah.
Why am I threatened by this person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or yes, yeah, by what he's doing or not doing. And as I've practiced letting go of that compulsion to project those emotions onto him, right, is what the pattern has been, is, oh, I'm feeling these ways and I'm going to blame how he's being for the feelings I'm feeling, or blame what they're doing for the feelings I'm feeling, and then I'm going to try to exert control on them so that I can feel better, so that I can not feel the feelings that I'm feeling, right? I'm going to put that responsibility on them. As I've let that relax, and the key to that for me and Brandon has been me learning to really mindfully communicate to him what my internal experience is, meaning without projecting blame. And I've had a tendency to over-explain, right? Which even if then my words aren't projecting blame, the length of my speech will generally lend to that, right? And so as more understanding has been created between the two of us, and I've, with that and then internal resourcing and his support, been able to relax, now I'm noticing, I love that you brought up that love languages are also programs. And one of the things that was initially, I would say it was the biggest struggle for me in my relationship with Brandon, was that he is not a words of affirmation guy. He doesn't care about getting them.
Yep.
He's not that great at giving them.
He just wants to get the job done.
Yes, he is an acts of service. I will be devoted to you and do whatever you want me to do all day long, right? But words are not his game. And not at every phase in life, but certainly the phase coming into meeting him, big words of affirmation person. And I started feeling the void of that. And I spent so much energy trying to teach him, motivate him, convince him to fill that gap. And so then fast forward back to what I was saying, as a lot of that dissonance has relaxed, I've been able to pull back on projecting that need onto him, and it's really helped me resource a deeper level of positive inner dialogue. It's motivated me to invest more in my other relationships, especially with women. And as I've pulled back from that, because he is a very kind man who loves me a lot, without feeling the heat of my criticism and neediness, oh look what comes out. Now there's more words of affirmation.
Yeah. It's a kind of it's a backwards kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's fascinating. We're talking about anti-love languages before, right? I think love languages itself, by I think it was Gary Chapman, it's a really beautiful opportunity for partners and friends to learn how to connect with each other in different ways through this process. I think it's gotten a lot of heat over the years, especially more recently, where because it's not specific enough and it doesn't speak to all opportunities, that people kind of dismiss it. But also,
people like to do that, don't they?
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's not close enough, And look, every metaphor and every map is going to have limitations, right? But when it comes, what I was going to say was jumping onto the anti-love languages. I think it's very important for us to tune into, okay, I have a deep need for significance, or I have a deep need to, if I'm sitting on my own, I'm not connecting with someone, I feel very lonely. Why is that? And as you said, again, have no idea what you're talking about here, but when you get that clingy feeling, right, and you're just like, oh my God, he's home, and you want to jump on your partner and do the thing, and he's like, dude, I need 10 minutes. I just need to sit on my own for a bit. That can be very fascinating to sit and watch. And again, what I was saying before, I'm doing that thing again where I am being clingy or whatever it might be. If you can tune into yourself and have a shared language with your partner with that, that can be really beautiful to be able to say, oh, look, I just need 5 minutes right now. Or when you start having an argument with someone, can you do that for each other and say, hey, I think we're both doing that program. Beautiful philosophical question is, how did the universe know to find you the perfect person to do that work with? Yeah. Because anybody else, it would have been a totally different configuration, right? And your programs are beautifully clashing with him, as mine has done with Cassandra at sometimes. And we really had to work with each other, not against each other. And if you can see my hands like train tracks here side by side, if those two train tracks just wiggle in a little bit, there's a very fine line before they're pointing at each other and now they're butting heads. Or if they angle outwards, now they're playing tug of war. And so we have to listen to each other to be able to work and walk hand in hand up that mountain. And maybe she needs to listen to me more, and maybe I need to listen to her more. So learning that dance, learning the leading and following, making sure everyone gets what they need, contributes how they can and want to. That's the dance right there. Yeah. The other thing that I always come back to as well is there needs to be one adult in every relationship. Meaning, if you're both triggered and you're both dropped back into your programs and reacting rather than responding consciously, you're both just going to be firing each other off until someone blows up or walks out, and it can be really beautiful to catch yourself and say, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing again where I want to walk out. Why is that? Why do I not feel safe right now?
Mm-hmm.
And asking for what you want, learning to say, I need some affirmations right now, or I need more touch right now, or whatever it might be. And allowing the partner to say yes or no, because they have a choice as well. And learning, as you say, to be able to, I know he's not in a space to give me what I need right now, so I'm going to give it to myself or get it from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we might be in a monogamous relationship sexually and emotionally, there are always needs that we're getting elsewhere. My partner's not paying me financially, so I've got to go elsewhere for my financial needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or she may not be that funny to me, so I'm going to go elsewhere to get my needs met. She's pretty funny. Not as funny as me, but no, she's got she does give me a lot of things, and she doesn't fulfill every need, and even if she did, she wouldn't be able to fill it all the time exactly when I wanted in exactly the way I wanted. So how can I get that for myself? And I'm learning, probably like you are, not to put too much pressure on my partner for those things. But also learning to communicate and discern the timing to that. And is this the right time? She says it's the right time, but can I read through that and tell her that now it's not okay? And women can be very subconscious as well in their communication, whereas guys can be more direct sometimes. So it's such a beautiful dance. Yeah.
Have you read the book Love is a Battery?
I believe I know of it, but I don't think I've read it, no.
That's what I'm reading right now in my reading room, which is like a book club, but no one else gets to read unless they want to. So people just show up and I read to them because cool. I like reading out loud. And
super cool.
It's fun and social, and I had heard a lot of comments from people over the years about like, yeah, I want to read more books, but this, but that. And I was like, well, this seems mutually supportive. That's the first book we've been reading is Love is a Battery, which is all about breaking down the dance, right? The mechanics of the dance in a relationship. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
it's really good.
So rich for people like us and probably most of your listeners, for an opportunity to reflect, you know. And again, coming back to the problem in inverted commas of why aren't I there yet? I'm trying less and less I'm trying more and more to catch myself out on negative, unconstructive language like why doesn't she get it, and all that kind of stuff, which just sneaks in at random times, to say, what does this moment need right now? And it's not about even them or me or whatever, just what does the moment need? And again, trusting that bigger picture that you're both a part of, because you're no longer individuals when you get into a relationship. It's what does the journey need? What is best for everyone? Trusting that moment will then provide for both people.
Yes. So good.
So good.
Yeah. Let's wrap up there.
Sure.
Yeah, this has been episode 21 of the Naturally Rosie podcast. This is Brett Solomano. I did that right.
You did. You're still thinking about it though.
I'm still thinking about it. Yes. Names are a thing that
It's important to get it right. Yeah. Again, how to win friends and influence people. Yeah. Say people's name whenever you can and get it right. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we will, whatever contact information you have, we will put in the podcast. I can recap, or would you like to recap the offer that you shared on the first half of the podcast in case anyone forgot about it or didn't listen to that first half?
Yeah, I'd be happy to give a select group of people half an hour free coaching session. I love, as I said before, I love giving aha moments. That's my currency. You know, it's nice to get paid. It's nice to make people laugh, but my big currency is aha moments. So I'd love to give other people an aha moment. And to do that through a coaching session is one of the best ways, I think. So if they want to do that, they can reach out to me at stuntmansguide.com. And I would love to be in touch with people and have more conversations like this.
Cool. A stuntman's guide.
That's right.
Love that. So good. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Until next time, spend some time outside, have lots of laughs, and give someone, maybe yourself, a big ol' hug. And we'll hear you next time. We won't hear you, but you'll hear me.